time of the quick speed shop, I've got to disassemble the rest of my Model A truck chassis so I can finish welding it and get it ready for paint. I got to unbolt the headers and bolt the exhaust system. We'll get that off of there. Pull the engine and transmission back out, set those aside. Then I can unbolt the rear leaf springs, the rear end, to get that out from under here, and then unbolt the front end and get that out, and then the frame will be bare. I'll pick it up in the air, flip it upside down, weld the underside of it that's not welded yet, and then I've bought some Eastwood rust converter, chassis saver, and some other paint. I'm going to go ahead and use some Eastwood products to paint this all satin black and then reassemble it. If you missed the earlier videos on this truck where I built this exhaust system, these are offshore stainless steel lake style headers I bought on eBay, and I think they're still selling them on eBay, but they were $127 for the pair of them, I think it was, or $111 something. Anyway, super cheap for a set of stainless steel headers. I haven't run them yet, but they're all TIG weld stainless. The only problem is they come loose in the box and they end up with dents on the here and there. I'm building kind of a beater hot rod, so I didn't care, but if you order these, just be prepared that they ship them just wrapped in plastic with no packing and they get all banged up. But I've always wanted these. I could never afford a set. Usually they're $600-700, and so I'm taking a chance on these. But go up top, watch a video when I build the exhaust system for this, and you'll learn all about it. These are real Kel Custom valve covers. They're powder coated, a bright finish, but after 20 years or 20,000 miles of running around with this grungy old 283, they're all discolored and nasty. But I'm going to try to clean all this up. I might try to repaint the engine, but it's got a lot of oil on it. This thing's got a ton of blow-by. It's a free engine I found down in the city years ago, and I put a used cam in it, put new head gaskets on it and stuff, and it runs good. It gets over 20 miles a gallon. It's got some blow-by out of the tube here. I needed an early intake. This is an Edelbrock CB3, which I think is a precursor to the Performer, and it's like a late 60s intake, and I needed it because of the draft tube here, or the breather tube, because there's no holes in these valve covers. Okay, bam, we're in business now. Fortunately, I've puked some antifreeze out of the hose. I thought I had tilted this thing enough before where it wasn't leaking, but I've made a mess already. So I've got it up. I had to chain the transmission up because the thing was back heavy, and I've got to pick two front heavy here, but I'm going to try to roll it on out of here, set it down. The chassis is already free, as you can see. Roll this back to here. Run out of space here. Come on. Oop. Come on. I guess that's going to be out of the way enough to see if I can get it spun around and just blocked up here and leave it right on the stand. But here it is. Now I can pull the front end out and pull the rear end out and pick this up and put on sawhorses. Uh-oh, why is the engine back in? Well, it's because I forgot one thing. I got to figure out where I want to put my steering box. Now, when I built this truck originally, I used a GM 525 box, which is a big manual GM box. It was like in the 50s up to the 80s cars with manual steering. I think mine came out of a Jeep, like a CJ5 with manual steering Jeep. But anyways, it's kind of big for these applications, and I didn't have any. What all the hot rodders run is Vega boxes, and here's a Vega box out of a Chevy Vega. And I didn't have any, but I went and I bought a couple at a guy's garage, and he was selling stuff. So now I've got a Vega box. I'm going to use a Vega steering here. So I've got this box, and it actually came with a plate when I bought it from the guy. So I had the engine out, but I was like, wait a minute, I want to see where this is going to fit and make sure it's not going to hit the engine. So I went and slapped it back in real fast, and pretty much this box is going to go right about here, right in front of the cross member and the engine mount, and it's going to weld. The plate's going to weld to the frame, right here. So I've got this pretty much dialed in already. There's plenty of clearance to the engine. There's no interference whatsoever. So I know I'm good wherever I want to put it. So now I can go ahead and get the engine back out again, and then we'll disassemble the frame. All right, dug out my old steering box. This is the 525 manual box I made from 65 to like 91 or so. But you can see, compared to the Vega box, how much bigger it is. And the pitman arm is going the wrong way because I bent it up when it was in the original configuration. I had to go up like this. So just want to show you the difference in size. What I'm doing now is I got this clamped in here roughly where I want it. And I've got my old tie rod end stuck in here. I'm over here on the spindle, and I'm just trying to get an eyeball on what needs to happen here. These I got 37 to 41 round back spindles on here, Ford round back spindles. And what needs to happen is the steering arms need to be heated because I've got a drop axle. The steering arms need to be heated and bent down here, then bent back up here to take this mounting point for the tie rods and drop it down a little bit to clear the wishbones here with the drop axle. So I've got a set of real nice spindles I bought a few years ago. I'm going to heat and bend these and drop these, and then put new bushings in them and use these for the front end. So I've got my good spindles here. What I'm doing is looking at the tie rod ends, and this one's got a bend in it, but I'm just trying to anticipate what kind of angle I need. I'm going to buy a new universal pitman arm. They make aftermarket ones now. This is a factory one. They make aftermarket ones that are straight, and they're tapered for a Ford tie rod end, 7 degree taper. They're tapered both ends so you can mount the tie rod above or below the pitman arm. So I can use this to approximate where the box has got to be this way on the frame. I think I've got a good spot for it here. I got enough room under this motor mount to run a U-joint, and then the steering shaft, the steering column comes down about here. Steering column comes down about here, so there will be a 3/4 inch double D shaft on 2 U-joints. It'll go like this, and it'll clear the engine just fine, and it'll clear the frame. So this will work out good here. I just wanted to get that set up before I take the front end out of the frame here. All right, there we go. Bam! Everything's all stripped off, and I'm ready to do my finish welding up here. I gotta weld the bottom of these spring perches, and then I got a couple of plug welds in here. I'll get these on here. I gotta weld the bottom of my shackle tubes here. Weld the bottom of the rear cross member, and then I can weld the bottom of the front wishbone mounts. I've got to cut a bigger notch for the front spring here on the back side. I got to notch that just a little bit deeper, so I can do that. And then I'll also weld the bottom of the shock mounts here. So I get all that stuff done, and then I'm gonna sand it all down and hit it with I got Eastwood rust encapsulator for chassis. I'm gonna, well, it's for everything, but I'm gonna spray it all with Eastwood rust encapsulator, and I'm gonna paint it with Eastwood chassis black, and then I'll flip it over and I'll work on the top side, finish welding that. I'm gonna bust out the welder and start welding this stuff up. All right, I got my Miller Multimatic 215 fired up, and I'm just welding what needs to be welded on the bottom side. I've already welded up the spring perch over here. I've got 3 plug welds on the bottom, and then some short stitch welds around the bottom plate. When I flip this over, I'll be welding it fully from the top on the outside edge of the frame. And when I finish welded the bottom of the shock mount here, I've welded the bottom of the rear shackle tube up and the rear cross member. So now I'm on this side. I'm going to weld these first and do a couple welds here, and I finish weld the shock mount. This rear shackle tube, I got just a slight twist in it, so I got to cut the weld on the outside and tweak it like an 1/8 inch and weld that back in, but that'll be good. welding this on 110 power. I've got the auto set to 30 thousandths wire, 1/8" steel, which all this is. And it's doing a fantastic job, burned in there nice. And it has no problem on the 110 doing the 1/8". It'll do up to 3/16 on a 110 power. But the Miller-Matic 215 is awesome. So I'm going to keep welding, letting stuff cool weld, and I'm going to button the whole back end of this up, and then move up front to the wishbone mounts. Alright, I got everything all welded up here on the bottom side, including up front there on the wishbone mounts. I also welded up my shock mounts, which are the lower spring plate with a 5/8 bolt welded to it, and I used the full-on balls out 3/16 setting on the 110 feature on that 215 Miller, and I did a root pass and a cover pass on the back here. That came out nice, and then one pass on top. So this will be a good test of the capabilities of that machine on 110, but it burned it in super nice on this 3/16 or almost 1/4" plate. It burned it in nice. I can see penetration of the bolt. So that'll be a good test of the 110 power, is if the shock mount rips off this plate, but I doubt it will. So this is still awful hot. The other one's super hot. So I've just got one thing to do. I got to trim this rear shackle tube and straighten it out just a little bit, and then I'm going to go up to the front and work on the pocket for the front spring. I've got to make the slots a little bit bigger because I flattened the front cross member out, and I've got a drop posy spring with a reverse eyelets on it. So the spring's pretty flat, and when I put the weight on it, it settles down in the frame, so I've had to notch the frame probably 2.5 inches or so. So this thing will be a lot lower in the front. I got the steering box plate ready to weld in. I ordered a new pitman arm. I got a flat pitman arm that's drilled for Ford tie rods both sides, so I can set up my drag link all right. I've got some new U-joints stuck up the steering shaft, and I'm caught. I've also taken the front spring out so I can trim my my notches here for the spring pocket. I can clean these up. I've got to lower it just about a 1/4 inch more, and I'm also adding a spacer to the spring to bring the spring up about a 1/4 inch. It's going to sit down inside the cross member, and I got to trim it, but it'll weld in here. Then the spring will sit on this, and it'll bring the spring up about a 1/4 inch, and I'll trim these down so I should have enough clearance for the spring. I'm going to clean up the edges of this nice. After that, I'm going to clean this up, and I'm going to paint it with some Eastwood rust encapsulator and then Eastwood chassis black. But that's going to be in the next video because this one's getting long. So I'm going to button this up, and next time at the Model A Hot Rod Shop Truck, I'll be painting the frame, and we'll get it flipped upside down, or right side up I should say, and get it touched up, and then we'll be able to start doing the reassembly process. So as always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for your alerts. Tell your friends. And as always, we'll see you again right here at the Quick Speed Shop.